to Athletes Thriving in Perimenopause and Beyond. I am your host, Tenille Hoogland. I am an integrated health and sport performance coach. I'm thrilled to be here, and I'm thrilled to welcome Jenn Pike to the interview today.
Thanks. I'm happy to be here. Can't
Oh
wait
my
to
goodness.
dive into the conversation.
Oh, we are going to dive in, but I do want to share just an incredible, what I was really stricken by in your bio, which I'm going to share, is just some of the real targeted words that you use. So do allow me just to read it here just briefly, because I think it sets us up for how this conversation is going to go. So you are a medical exercise specialist and functional diagnostic nutritionist specializing in women's health and hormones. You've written 3 books: The Simplicity Project, The Simplicity Kitchen, and The Simplicity Body. You're a fiercely driven founder of the Hormone Project Synced and the Audacious Woman. I love these words. Like, listen to this: simplicity, audacious, potentially powerful programs that are dedicated to empowering and teaching women what they should have known about their bodies all along. Amen. Like, where's our education from when we were little, right? And it almost feels like, when we think about why didn't I know this before, like it almost has angered me. I'm like, I didn't know my body. I didn't know my body. And now we have this opportunity like this one to really dive in, and it's such a powerful piece. And that's how I know what you're bringing to the people that you serve. Your wisdom and power they hold. Your body is wisdom and power. And you sit on the advisory board for Strong Fitness Magazine. You have an incredibly successful podcast called The Simplicity Sessions, which has been in Apple's top 200 in health since its debut, September 2018. That is such a cool thing to be able to say. And Simplicity TV on YouTube, so we can find you. So this is some of the things that, if you're enjoying this conversation, you have places to go. You're an inspired wife and mom of 2. And you know what you talk to is the journey to be enjoyed, not a struggle or forced. You cut the BS and create more simplicity and ease in all you do. And it's just, just coming into it, the words I know are important to you. So simplicity, audacious, powerful, wisdom, inspired. Can you just tell us like a little bit about yourself and your journey, and like how you've come to be like, these are the core things that you want people to know? Could you share just a tiny bit about you?
Yeah, so I think the inspiration and the inspiring piece has always been there. I've, for as long as I can remember in my whole life, I've always been somebody that when I have been connected to a message or information, like the inspiration hits, and I'm like that right there. And so I've always been able to channel that. When I started to work with women more so than I was working with a lot of male athletes, specifically a lot of male hockey players in the first part of my career. And there was a very different energy and tone when I would work with women at the gym that I was working at, outside of working with professional hockey players. And there was this deeper kind of layer of, yes, being very inspired and showing up and being goal oriented and being audacious. But there was also this underlying what felt oftentimes like desperation for, I just need more simplicity in my life. I'm really just craving more simplicity and more ease. And for me, I was also in that same place. It was never hard for me to set goals, to achieve goals, to put myself into what we refer to as like a very masculine hustle, grind, go after it energy. That was not hard for me. What was hard for me was to trust that it was safe to actually do the opposite, and to tap into my feminine energy, and to be in a place where it was still empowering, it was still inspiring, it was still audacious, but it was actually rooted in simplicity. And so when I became a mother, when I was 26, which is, 18 years ago, that became a mantra for me in my life, was simplicity and ease, simplicity and ease. How do I create all that I desire in the multifaceted woman that I am, but not in a way where I am the sacrificial lamb, where I'm constantly sacrificing my well-being and, the way I show up in the world in the name of achievement. And so those are really where a lot of the words came from. And audacious and the audacious woman is really the journey that I've been on for probably the last decade, as I've gotten older and just had a lot more clarity on what my purpose is and what I'm really here to do, and showing up in a very unapologetic way. I'm not, I don't try and like edit myself to make it comfortable for someone else if I want to create this or do that. And I think that as women, we are like, yes, we have this goal, we want to achieve it. And then we'll make ourselves smaller, or we'll shrink ourselves so that we don't take it from someone else, ruffle a feather, my goodness, be judged, or, any of that type of stuff that will come up. And I've really just been flexing those muscles over the years. I talk a lot with my clients and my students that like, it is about the reps. It's like the other side of trying to get stronger in anything you do in your life isn't about showing up once. It's like repeatedly showing up and creating consistent small reps and movements that teach you over time. And then you get to go through what you grow through. And that's, I believe, like our evolving journey as women, as humans.
Oh, it's amazing. So, because I think it's fascinating, we're going to talk about today, and in your expertise too, like how do we view exercise? Because you come from this, like you mentioned, you were working with professional athletes and focusing more and more and more on women and coming forward with that. And then there's the self-care, and what is fascinating, and this is what I find too, is, we can find as athletes this grit. We want to rely on our grit, and you like yourself, like this masculine energy, and coming into that flow. So can you talk a little bit about how it is in different life stages? I love the word of simplicity. I want to bring that into everything as well. I'm just like, how do we make this a little more simplistic and easeful while, doing hard things at the same time? And how does that shift, or does it shift from the premenopause to the perimenopause to the postmenopause? And how do you talk about that? How do you support people to understand the differences or the similarities?
So there's definitely there's not a subtle, there's a seismic change that happens, because when we're talking about all of these phases, premenopause, perimenopause, menopause, and postmenopause, these are huge transformations that happen over more than a decade. And the very little that we've been taught is like, oh, this is like a 12-month calendar, period of time. And like periods are going to change, and like your weight might change, and your sleep, and your, body temperature, and all of those things. And then eventually you won't have a period. And once you haven't had one for a year, now you're postmenopausal. And we kind of try to like wrap it up in this tiny little box and like bow it and like name it and then hand it and be like, well, this is just your journey, ladies. And we're doing such a disservice, and this is changing, thank goodness, thanks to conversations like this. But, when we are coming into our 30s as women, we are actually, like, from a physiological perspective, starting to move towards the tail end of our reproductive potency, in terms of just like, when we're in our teen and tween years, we have this abundance, like our hormones are hyped up. They are like, we have been waiting for the call. We are here. We are like in full throttle, ready to go. Yeah. If you've ever raised a teen or remember what that is like, whoa, it's a lot. I'm raising two right now. And then you get into your 20s and same thing. And these hormones are in this way very much on purpose, designed for us to move into our life in a certain way, and have this tenacity, and have this grit, and have this ability to push the envelope and go a little bit deeper and not feel like we are going to die. When you get into your mid 30s, your late 30s, definitely by your early 40s, your body's capacity and resiliency greatly shifts. And that can happen for a lot of different reasons, but most certainly the chemistry within our hormones are changing. And so when we are no longer ovulating with the same regularity or the same potency that we once did, this dramatically impacts our progesterone. And everything in the body is connected. We don't live in, silos in our body. So when our progesterone is not as abundant, this plays a critical role in our mental health and well-being, our body's ability to get out of that fight or flight and be in the rest and digest. It also propositions estrogen to be in more of an estrogen dominant state. So for some women, that may show up like They have increasing breast tenderness. They have heavier periods. They have more erratic symptoms that come along with their cycle. Their weight is changing, their mood, their sleep, like things are just not what they used to be for them. And it's coming with a certain intensity that they no longer are like, I can't actually control this. I feel like I'm at the helm of this. Like I just wait every month to see what's going to happen. And then I have to kind of course correct based on that. And perimenopause, this happens on average over the course of about 8 to 12 years for women. Where that blows a lot of people's minds wide open is that we are very good at dismissing and ignoring and shoving down when our body is whispering to us and starting to let us know that things are changing. So it may not be in your actual menstrual cycle it's changing, but it could be in your mood. It could be in your energy, your sleep. It could be in your drive. It could be in your hair, your skin, your adrenals, your thyroid, your gut. Again, your body is all connected. And so when we start to recognize some of these changes happening for us as women, typically we don't step back and go, oh, this is powerful. Like I should probably slow down. I should probably, do a little life scrub and have an honest conversation with myself about what needs to change. We go, oh, I got to double down. I got to go harder. Mm-hmm. I got to exercise more. I have to train with more, intensity. I have to create these non-negotiables. I need to firm up the diet. These are I got to get in there. I'm obviously not doing enough. Mm-hmm. And the reality is the opposite couldn't be more true, as where when we're going into perimenopause, which for most women, and it's interesting because I've been doing this work for so long. I used to say typically between 42 and 45 is when you would notice most of these symptoms, just knock, knock, we're just letting you know we're in the neighborhood now. Yeah. We haven't moved in next door yet, but we're circling. Yeah. And then by your late 40s, definitely into your early 50s, you are either in the full throttle of perimenopause or you are just waiting for the 12-month date to stamp it and be okay, now I'm postmenopausal. I'm seeing it younger and younger. In women, they're, what we used to refer to as this 8 to 12-year window. I'm seeing it for some women that are 37, 38 years old that are presenting with a lot of these signs and symptoms about 5 years earlier than we normally would. And then I'm seeing some women who are carrying on and having, fully regular menstrual cycles at the age of 56, 57 years old, which is also not the typical. So, it's just, there's a lot of different things happening. And what our body is telling us, if we talk about something specifically like exercise, there are certain times in our life where doing, higher intensity or endurance or heavier lifting and those types of things are really beneficial. And then there are times when doing more restorative, more connective work like yoga and walking versus running and Pilates and meditation and those types of things are going to be really good. And the reality is that if you're a woman that is still cycling in any capacity, meaning you are still getting a bleed each month, we go through 4 very distinct phases in our body. So when we finish our period, our actual bleed week, and this is a very important distinction, your cycle and your period are not the same thing. Your period is when you bleed, but your cycle is that whole length of time from the first day that you bleed all the way through until you get your next period. Once you have had your period and it stops, you're now entering what's called the follicular phase. And this is a period of abundance. Our hormones are coming back on scene. Estrogen is increasing. Testosterone is sliding in behind, coming into ovulation. Progesterone hasn't yet come up to the plate yet. But this estrogen returning is helping us from a neurological and a cognitive perspective. We feel okay, I'm reconnected to my body. Energy's coming back. A little bit of my tenacity is coming back. My resiliency, my power. This is a beautiful period of time, especially if you're doing strength training as a woman, which I highly recommend because muscle is not just to make us look good. It holds a currency in our bodies that is not only an organ of longevity, if you follow the work of Dr. Gabrielle Lyon, but it is also really working on an endocrine level for us. And so if we want to be healthy metabolically, we want to have healthy insulin, sensitivity versus resistance as we age as women. We want to make sure we are taking care of our bone health, our heart health, and our brain health. We actually need to be recognizing that the goal is to build more muscle, not to lose more scale weight. It is actually, so many women are constantly in a deficit which is actually depleting us. And we need to learn how to actually be in a build phase. And so that follicular period of time is wonderful to be increasing the amount of weight that you are lifting, play around with your rep ranges and sets. So maybe instead of doing like 3 sets of 15, you're doing 4 or 5 sets of 6 to 8 reps, longer rest time in between. And you're really dialing in like a 40 to 45 minute session instead of an hour and a half, a solid hour boot camp, Orange Theory, going like full tilt Peloton all the time. And listen, I own a Peloton. I don't have anything against any of those things. The issue that happens is if we subscribe to a dogmatic approach where we've got intensity and the amount of calories I burn in this time is always the way that it has to be in order for me to stay this size, be smaller, achieve said goal, do that thing. When you come out of your follicular phase and you're now coming into ovulation, this is a fantastic time for that high intensity interval training to do some ballistic movement, which, it's can feel counterintuitive because we will hear things like, as you get older, like, don't let your feet leave the ground, like, don't jump, don't do things where you could get hurt. But there's actually a lot of research that tells us, and this is the work of Dr. Stacy Sims, that when we do explosive power-based movements, even short bursts, referred to as burst training, this is actually extremely beneficial for our metabolic health, cognition, brain, heart health, our body composition, tendons, ligaments. And this is important for us as women because as we start to lose estrogen, specifically our estradiol, E2 from the ovaries, you're more prone to injury. You don't have the same tensegrity, the same structure in the tendons and ligaments that were protecting you in your earlier years, your teens, 20s, 30s, and early 40s. That is starting to diminish. And so the reason that women become more prone to knee injuries and to low back and, injuries overall, rotator cuff issues, frozen shoulder, our hormones are playing a massive role in this. So if you can start to incorporate that in around that time, and then as you come out of ovulation, you're going into your luteal phase, which is the longest period of time for us when we are cycling. It's between when you ovulate and then your next period starts. This is actually my favorite phase. It's where we have a long runway of doing really good work. So you still be doing your strength training. You're starting to pay attention to your energy though. So maybe instead of doing like your heavier lifts and going 6 to 8 reps, maybe now you're in like that 10 to 12 rep range. And then a few days before your period, you might even just be changing it up for body weight movements. And that's when your bar and Pilates and various yoga practices come in to really nurture the body as opposed to create the deficit that then prepare you to come into your bleed, which that period of time, I recommend for most of the athletes and women that we are working with in perimenopause, that you dial it back for your first 48 hours of your bleed. You give your body the opportunity to actually like go into the den and like create that bare medicine and rest. And then so that when you come back, like again, we're always asking ourselves, am I depleting my reserves or am I topping my reserves up and nourishing myself? And so exercise, we've just been trained, here's your program. Monday to Friday, this is what you do. Or if you're the weekend warrior and you just go, it doesn't matter what's happening with your body. Like, no pain, no gain, just do it. Go do the hard thing. Mm-hmm. And so if we choose to subscribe to that all the time and we don't take into consideration our own body, this is where you may find you're getting like diminishing gains and you feel like you get stuck and your endurance isn't improving or your stamina, your muscle growth, your recovery, you're sore all the time. Probably the biggest complaint that I hear from women in perimenopause and menopause is my joints ache all the time. I am always sore. It takes me forever to recover. Mm-hmm. That's a great opportunity to do a deeper look at what you're doing and where do we need to maybe coach up some areas of your body so that we can optimize recovery.
Mm-hmm. It's so interesting. I love it that you are creating the shift in thinking that we have heard, and if for anybody that subscribes to the Dr. Stacy Sims, it's like lift heavy and these are the things we need to do, and yes, hit, and what you're creating is a lot more flexibility to understand what's happening within our body And of course, in perimenopause, it ranges. We're not on a perfect cycle anymore either. It gets longer.
No, you can be like, oh, it's going to arrive in 8 days. And then tomorrow it's like, just joking. Here we are.
Yeah. And we, go 30 days and we're at 35 days. And my athlete was just like, check out my schedule. And we're going 38 days. We're going 39 days. And I'm just like, okay, next time is 40 days right before you hit Kona. Perfect. Okay. It's going to be challenging. Yeah. And it's, what I love about what you're suggesting and is that we can find the flow. Like, this is to your point again, finding flow. Like, how is it that we find flow with the body, with the change of our hormones that is occurring, and stay attuned to it?
Yeah. The other thing I just want to say on that is that for when that's starting to happen, where it's the opposite end of the spectrum, where there is more time in between when a period arrives. So this would be late stage perimenopause, because that typically doesn't start happening until your last maybe 2 years, but definitely your last year, right? Is when it's like, I haven't had one for a few months, and then you get one. And then like women can get to literally 11 and a half months and they get a period and they're like, oh my God, I have to start the calendar again. Is if you're somebody where you're like, I'm a creature of habit and I really need like something to root myself into, you can follow the lunar cycle. It's a beautiful 29.5 day cycle that you can tap into, or you can. So if we're talking about Kona, and we're talking about like, okay, as a triathlete, like it's all endurance, right? So, I mean, this is a cardiovascular endurance game. Some triathletes are going to do additional strength training on top of that. Most are going to utilize the 3 disciplines that they are competing in as majority of their training. And so it's a different stimulus that we're talking about. It has different demands on the body. And this is really where it's hard, because you can have, in your programming, whatever it may be, like, let's even say it's like a brick day, right? Where you're like biking and you're just like not in it. You don't have the energy. You don't have the stamina. This is when you do have to start to sometimes have what feels like the hard conversation with yourself, because it's like, at what cost are you pushing? Because for women, what'll happen to us is not only increase in injury, but we're talking about electrolytes. So we're talking about sodium and potassium, magnesium specifically. And this isn't just about like getting your salt in and about taking, electrolytes. This is the impact it has on your nerves, on your nervous system, on your adrenals, on your thyroid, and on muscle contraction. So it's like, it's a bigger picture and conversation. So you can maybe get through a couple of training sessions, a couple of races where you're just like, oh, it didn't feel good, but took that next whatever, it kind of got me through to the next stage. But you have to also really pay attention that if this is starting to happen to you more often than not, you may need more than simply your electrolytes. You may need adaptogens. You may need some additional nutrients. You might need some extra support. You might need bioidentical hormone replacement therapy. Like, the beautiful thing about the industry nowadays in functional medicine is we have so many different tools that we can use to support you. Because what I don't love hearing is, oh, well, you're in menopause now, like you can't do that anymore. Like, because that's not true. We just have to coach up your body in those areas that aren't feeling as good as they used to in a different way.
Yeah, I love that, because, a lot of the women listening to this, I think that it'll resonate that they're doing all the right things. Like, yes, I'm eating like colorful, I'm trying to get a lot of protein, I'm taking in all these things, and it's still, I'm not quite there. And what you're pointing to is when the supplementation, when you're doing big things, really can be needed, because you're doing big things, and that we can do these big things. But yes, we do need to support our body, because, well, those big things have higher requirements, higher costs, higher information. You need help to deal with those, the grit, the things that you're doing.
Yeah. And you're actually depleting and burning through those nutrients at such a faster rate when you're going and doing that type of movement, right? And it'd be the same thing if I'm talking to like those who are like some of our power lifters and different people. Like, we have a vast array of, different people that we work with from a movement perspective and have over the years. But the other thing is that you can be eating all of the right things and taking all of the right supplements, and still something is off. And when this happens, this is oftentimes the hardest part for an athlete, because athletes aren't slackers. They're not lazy. They are doers. And when you tell them you need to do this in order to be able to maintain your sport, they will most often, they'll go and buy the things, they'll cook the things, they'll go and do that most usually. The hardest piece is the mindset. The hardest piece is actually convincing a lot of athletes that as you age, you actually having more recovery days and focusing on your mobility and fascial work and small kinesthetic areas and doing those things is actually what is going to not only improve your performance, but allow you to perform for a longer period of time in your life. So the old routine you used to have, even last year, you could say, not necessarily the same approach that's going to get you where you want to go this year. And if you still see yourself competing in the next 5 years, you have to change the plan and the strategy.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you mentioned that, because I think that, again, like you said, a seismic shift is occurring
massive.
Here. Yeah. One thing I am curious about, though, is I agree. I everything you've said, I think is brilliant. And there's so many things that I think, even for those that are in the 35 and listening to this like, I appreciate as well that you said that things are happening earlier. So let's not put an age to it, but hormone change just generally. Like, if I would have known what I know now when I was in my 20s about the tendons, ligaments, balance, stability, how the optimal movements of these small, just optimal movement and range of motion, like I call it the active health, like just like at the very baseline, we can be doing this the whole time. And then, yes, we need to up the ante. Like, we cannot neglect it, just like we can't neglect our microbiome by like I call it feeding the fish. Like, we got to feed the fish every single day. Like, don't forget to feed the fish. This is feeding the fish. If we neglect it, particularly in perimenopause, then it makes things
it's much easier to get in front of it and to jump on it right now than it is to catch it. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's one of those things where I would say majority of the women that we work with in our wellness clinic, they will say, like, where were you in my life X amount of years ago? If I had only known this then, how different would things be now? And I completely appreciate that. I can say that about a lot of things in my life. However, we can acknowledge it, and then we got to get innovative of like, but we're not going back in time. So how do we meet ourselves where we're at right now, and choose differently and move forward? And so I think that piece is really important. And I think the other side of that is that, our bodies aren't just a tool for us to use to achieve the things that we want to. Like, in this lifetime, you get this one body. So, you and I are wearing clothing today. And if this clothing doesn't feel good or look good or gets like a hole in it, like, you and I could each go into our closet. We could take this off and we can go put something else on. We could put many other things on. You can't do that with your body. If this body isn't feeling good and is breaking down, you can't just like unzip and go hang up this, meat suit on one hanger and go take the next one and step inside of it. Like, it's really such a gift that we have this body to take care of. And as women, there's like a whole nother superpower for us to tap into, which is our intuition, which is that deep knowing. And when you talked about like the gut microbiome, again, like the gut microbiome, that's not an ecosystem by itself. That is like the hub. That is like the melting pot of where our health and origination is, and everything else. So that is like the root. And then those roots have all of these limbs, which are our immune system, our reproductive, our cardiovascular, circulatory, all our lymphatic, all of these other. And so it's like, and our brain. So our gut and our brain share an axis. So it's like, people will talk so often about like leaky gut, deficient microbiome, opportunistic bacteria, all these things. And it's like, well, if we have a leaky gut and we have issues going on down there, that permeability travels upstream. So it's impacting also our brain health and our cognition. And for a lot of people, it's like so much information and so overwhelming. But the reason is because we're meeting our body as we live in it. And we were never introduced to this information in a way that was common, normal, empowering, safe. And so most people won't even tap into the curiosity of what our bodies can do until something starts to feel like it goes wrong. And then that's where the overwhelm hits us. And, you said in the beginning, like this frustration of, well, why isn't it in our education system? And why aren't we doing a better job? And that's like a whole nother conversation, but that's also by design. That's also by design, specifically in not educating women a lot about their bodies. It's like when you empower a woman in her body, watch out. Because when she has that inner work that matches that, like that's a fire starter you can't quite put out. And there's a lot of power in that. And so, part of the work that, we do is like, it's reminding women of that. We've been taught outsource, keep asking other people, go to other people. And it's like, when was the last time you circled back to the home you're living in your body and you sat down and you asked yourself some questions and actually like trusted that you know the answer, or even the power of doing a timeline? This is one of the things that, so we do this in our health clinic, and I do this like in mentorship in life. It's like understanding the timeline. So your symptoms didn't start while you were sleeping. They didn't happen as a result of like the bender that you had on the weekend or whatever it is. Like if you can look at it from the physicality of your symptoms, and you can start to actually, okay, well, when did this start? Oh, it started, X amount. Well, what else was going on in my life then? Okay, and interesting. And then and you start to go backwards, you'll find that you see some things that you forgot and didn't kind of connect. And this can be massive. Like there's a whole nother story we're writing every day behind the scenes. And this is that mindset piece and the nervous system and all of that. Sometimes we're allowing like the younger version of us to still drive the bus.
Right.
When it's like, that's not who I am anymore. And so, we need a different route.
Oh, there's so much there. That was so just genius and brilliant. One thing that you just said is like that I don't know, I haven't actually thought about this a lot, but this idea of that we have been trained to outsource, like always looking beyond. And I think in the work that you do, and I know in the work that I do, it is actually about like the way I talk about it is like you are your highest technology. Right? Like you are the high tech. It's like, yes, we can get the Aura ring. Yes, we can find out these trackers. Yes, those are beautiful things, but it's actually you. It's within you that knows and how. And if you're looking for coaches, if you're looking for guidance, the people that you want, like yourself, like what, you specifically do in supporting it through functional diagnostic nutrition, through hormone, bioidentical hormones and all the pieces that you do, is look for somebody who's constantly not giving you the answer, but enabling and empowering you to lift up. Yeah. And that's where the gold is. And it's not an easy journey because you have to look.
No, well, and this is it. And so not only have we been trained to like outsource it, but we've also been very much trained that take this for 10 days and in 10 days it'll clear up. And if it doesn't come back, and I'll give you another prescription or whatever, and then in 10 more days it'll be gone. So we also think that we should be through it like this, like it should happen so quickly. And when we're talking about things, we're talking about this isn't stuff, like I said, that just happened. This has been, working its way up to the surface, bubbling up there for years, sometimes decades. And sometimes the thing that you're being asked to change or do isn't just for like the next 30 days. It's like, no, literally like, don't do that again, period.
Right.
And that can be the tricky part, is that we identify ourselves with the things we do, and we make that who we are. So we become our profession, we become our sport, we become our titles, we become our accolades, we become the ways that we've been celebrated and recognized in the world, when that is not who we are. Those are things we have done. That is not who we are. And so then when life starts to life at us and prevents us from that position, that accolade, that, competition, that whatever it is, and we can't do it anymore, that is massive, because that's where it's like, but that's who I am. And it's like, no, that is not who you are, but that is how you have been showing up. And that right there is the hardest thing to reconcile, is well, then who am I? And then, well, what is my purpose and what do I do? And because we work with a lot of women in their 40s and 50s, these conversations are happening. They're getting older, their kids are leaving the home, their relationships at home are changing, their whole identity around their purpose in life is shifting and changing, and their hormones are just like a little bit of a dumpster fire. And so it's a lot on women. It is a lot coming at us from so many different directions. Mm-hmm. And we get exhausted, and one of two things will happen. So you either have the woman that shows up who is like, I'm going to double down, I'm going to go harder, I got this. And that might work for a period of time. And in fact, it actually might feel really good. She's going to get huge hits of dopamine. She's going to feel like she's being rewarded. It's going to feel great. Cortisol production will probably be at an all-time like high. Her body might even utilize it well for a period of time, but we cannot sustain that. We literally are not designed as women to be able to sustain that. So what ends up happening is now you have the sustainability piece that we will call resiliency, that we will call ability, that we will call burnout, that we will call fatigue, capacity. And now women do the opposite, where they swing from here, which is a high, all the way over here to the low, which is they went from caring about everything and everyone to I literally don't care and I do not give a shit.
Yeah.
So it's this apathetic, just like I am so exhausted. Like I will do the things I have to do to get through this day and do my job, provide for my family and that, but like I got nothing
for more.
left.
Yeah.
Don't ask me for more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's interesting because as you are saying this, I'm thinking about perimenopause and looking at, if you, what I'm doing with my hands, if you're just listening, it's like you have your estrogen swing up and then it kind of comes down and then it's such a roller coaster. It's not like in our beautiful premenopause, like it comes up and those beautiful graphs and it comes down and then your progesterone comes up and it's like, if we can just remember that graph of that up and down and what I hear you saying is what we want to do is provide ourselves with a smoothing out and then ease for which you're talking about. And because those hormones are already going to go chaotic, like they already are going to be coming up, they're going to come crashing down. You don't have that progesterone, like you said, like to remind you, like the yin and the yang. And it's a high cliff you're falling off.
Well, and it doesn't have to be like that. But here's the other thing is we've only talked about estrogen and progesterone. We dabbled a little bit with cortisol. I think I mentioned the word insulin. There's also testosterone. There's also GABA. There's our neurotransmitter, serotonin, dopamine. There's leptin. There's ghrelin. There's like a whole gang.
Yeah.
There's a whole system that can be supporting us, which is why when we think about, okay, so like, what do I really need to do? It's the most boring advice that you've ever been given. I like most people when I talk about it are like, that doesn't sound hard enough. It doesn't sound impactful enough. It's definitely not sexy enough. And so then they like lose interest. But quite honestly, hydrate, get your minerals in, make sure that your blood sugar is stable. If like literally there's nothing else you do moving forward, stabilize your blood sugar. Protein, healthy fats, healthy carbohydrates, rich amount of fiber at each and every meal. Stop abusing intermittent fasting and going longer and longer within these non-eating windows for the sake of autophagy, because there's a million other ways we can create that. And there are healthy ways we can be doing things like fasting. I've interviewed a ton of fasting doctors on my podcast. And so I am here for it. But what I witness women do is create a caloric deficit and then a shorter eating window. And it's not sustainable for your system and won't feel good. Get your relationship with light and dark on point. Get your circadian rhythm happening there, right? Move your body in a nourishing way. Get into nature. Prioritize rest. And I am very careful with my wording sometimes because sleep can be really hard for people. So if we can focus on resting, and allowing our body to rest with the hope that sleep will become transformed as well. Sleep is a tricky one. Sleep is often like, it's further down the line of what will start to be better more consistently, but we can improve your rest tonight. right? We can improve your relationship to that and to recovery. So those are like some really important core tenets to be thinking about in supporting your body. And then when we talk about things like supplementation or adaptogens, botanicals, herbs, homeopathy, bioidenticals, that's really where I don't recommend that you're DIYing it. Make the investment to work with someone where like that's their zone. They don't work with everyone and anyone. They work specifically with what you're looking for. So that alignment piece is really important. You know, like we're very clear on who we work with in our clinic. If someone's reaching out and they're like going through cancer treatment or post-oncology treatment, we're not going to be the best team for them, but we're going to refer them out. If someone's managing an active Lyme infection right now, we're going to refer them out. If someone's managing extreme fatigue and burnout and hormonal inflammation and thyroid and gut issues, we're who you're going to work with. So it's like also just knowing when you go to work with an ND, a nurse practitioner, functional medicine, whatever it is, don't just look at the letters behind their name. Like really understand, do they work with people like you who are going through what you are going through? It'll save you a lot of time and energy and hopefully get you closer to the support. But I also just want to say, we have to start to take radical responsibility for our own health. So we can't go to an appointment and be like, this person's going to fix me. Because that's not how it works. That person, that practitioner, you know, it doesn't matter if we're talking about this with health or a therapist or your trainer, your personal trainer, your coach, they are a conduit. They can create the most incredible, you know, blueprint for you, but you have to execute that. You have to actually go and embody the recommendations. And with our health, and I have been there before, we go in and we like, I'll do that, but I'm not doing that one. I don't want to. Like, you want me to take an extra recovery day? Yeah, I'm not doing that. What else do you got? You want me to, you know, have like an actual meal instead of another cup of coffee? Yeah, I'm not doing that. You want me to not have 3 glasses of wine at night? Yeah, I'm not doing that. And it's like, okay, well then you tell me what you're prepared to do. And then let's reevaluate what your goals are. Because if you're not prepared to change, not everything, even just one, then you also can't be frustrated and angry when you don't feel any different. And that's sometimes the hard conversation that we don't want to have. And it is frustrating to hear and to listen to. But it's like, if we keep editing ourselves and tiptoeing around the conversation that really needs to be had, we're just going to have more and more women that are feeling pulled in a million directions and fragmented and burned out and fatigued and not happy and not performing and living life in the way that they desire to. So we can choose to play it safe, don't ruffle any feathers, stay over here in the comfort zone, or we can literally just have the one honest conversation and see what happens.
Yeah, gosh, what an incredible conversation. I've loved it. I've really enjoyed, like, I just love the let's coming back into your words of like simplicity. You just previously ran through a number of things like these. This is the simplicity of it. This is the simplicity of it. And you can try to make it we can try to make it really complicated.
Yeah. Oh, that's
actually
easy.
Not. Yeah. That's where you go and get support. Right.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, what you just mentioned about, you know, the supplementation or what, you know, adaptogens, or whether you're going to take this mineral, that vitamin, that. And the other thing, it's like, don't just like walk into the grocery store or into the health clinic and then just expect that the person who is serving you is going to absolutely have the best recommendation for what you need for this X thing. Because you're basically handing over the money, throwing something onto the wall and saying if it sticks. You're just like, well, don't know if it's really where you want to start, but that's often what we do because we're so desperate. And so I think what you've done is you've created a really inspiring starting point for everybody listening and thinking about, okay, like, let's slow down and actually think about what's really important. Where am I at? Where do I find the person who is going to understand, have the expertise, have the deep knowledge, and the and the care and the love for for who I am and who I want to be, and then let me go in that direction. I think it's such a incredible thing. And yes, it takes some serious audacity to do it. You know, it takes us to stand up on our 2 feet and say, I am empowered, I can do this, and I'm ready to listen.
Yeah.
Amen. Okay. Yeah. It was a powerful interview. Thank you. All right. You have a free gift that you're giving. It's called the Perimenopause Support Guide. Do you want to just share a little bit about that so people can know where to find you and they can click on it and get it linked into all the goodness that you're providing all the time?
So the best place is Instagram, honestly. If you go to Jenn Pike, my name is spelled with 2 N's. And if you go into my link, you'll see the perimenopause support guide. I have adrenal master classes. I have a ton of freebies and stuff in there. I have over 350 episodes of my podcast to date at this point. I have a YouTube channel with hundreds of videos. Like, there's a ton of, if you're just that person who's like, I just want to hear a little bit more, you're not maybe in a place of action just yet, there is so much for you that's there. If you are looking to actually have that support, there's also a link in the bio that leads you to our women's wellness clinic, which would be the best place to begin your journey. And you can hop on a call with our wellness advisor and just chat about what's going on and go from there. But that's the best place to connect.
Love it. Love it. And you will have all those links and things posted on your page. And I have 3 rapid fire questions for you. Are you ready?
Okay. Yeah.
What is one thing you're in full gratitude for right now?
Rain. I live in Kelowna, BC, and we've gotten rain today. And so I'm very grateful for the rain.
Oh, the smell, hey? Just, we have.
And very dry here.
Yeah, very dry. She lives in the desert of Canada.
Yes.
It's true. Very much. We have a desert. You didn't know. All right. What is one thing that you I wish you had learned, I mean, we've actually talked about this today, so it's kind of interesting. Wish you had learned at least 10 years ago, or something that you struggled with that you're just like, oh man, I wish I saw something on the other side that
I would actually say that it would have been the exercise piece, because I started training cyclically about 7.5 years ago. And so 10 years ago, I was still grinding my body, doing a lot of different things, teaching too many classes. I was doing sprint triathlons back then. I was just doing too much. And so I wished 10 years ago that I had this information around cyclical training based on my body.
Yeah, I can really appreciate that, bringing us always back into cycle. Like you've mentioned a few things, and it's also how I coach of thinking about seasonal. Like we all our cycles. We live in cycle from the
we're in it right now. You and I are recording this like just after the equinox, right? So it's like we've just been, we're birthing into this beautiful season that is like the harvest. It's like reaping what we've sowed, all of this, and getting ready to pull back.
Yeah, it's really interesting. And the final question I have is, do you have a saying or a quote that helps you really stay grounded or something that you live by?
I have a couple, kind of depending. One that I remind myself often is that I am only one, but I am one. And though I can't do everything, I can do something. And so I won't let what I can't do interfere with what I can do. And I know that to be true for myself and everyone else, right? Like grace and compassion for thee, but also for we. So that I come back to often. And honestly, my mantra in life is simplicity and ease. I whisper it probably 1,000,000 times a day.
Yeah. I don't know who said it, but it's like the thing that you teach is the thing that you need.
For sure. For sure it is, right?
Yeah. It's like all the experts here are like, okay, let's keep on. Let's keep on learning what we need. Oh my goodness. Well, thank you so much, Jenn. I'm going to leave you with the last word. Is if there's anything else that we didn't touch on that you really wanted to ensure that you shared with the listeners today.
I feel like we just did this really beautiful full circle. And so I think we did well.
Yes. Thank you so much. And I look forward to everybody coming in and getting to know you even more.
Thank you for having me.